The Galactic Council hall was wide and bright, but the air inside was heavy. Hundreds of alien leaders filled the circle of seats, yet not one of them looked calm. Their eyes, their skin, their wings, their fins, all showed the same thing: fear. In the middle of the floor stood a long silver table. Every seat had a nameplate for a species, but one seat was empty, and its plate carried a single word: human. No one touched that plate. No one even looked at it for long. The word itself carried weight. It was like saying the name of a storm in the middle of a quiet night. The archivist of Meru 6 began the session. Her voice was thin like dry paper. She opened an old record and read, 200 years since the ban on humans, 200 years without their armies, 200 years of peace. She paused, then her eyes turned cold. Until now? The screens around the hall lit up with a flashing red signal. It showed a border world burning. Fire cut across the land. In orbit, space was full of broken ships. A swarm of machines, gray and endless, moved like a tide. They ate metal, stone, and life. They did not speak. They did not stop. They only spread. One by one, more signals appeared. First world, gone. Second world, gone. Third line of defense falling fast. The swarm did not move like armies. It moved like hunger, and hunger never tires. The council had called this meeting because they had no more plans. The fleets had failed. The weapons had failed. The swarm was winning, and soon the whole galaxy would follow. On the balcony above, a young messenger from the Rim watched the leaders whisper. He had never seen a human. He had only heard old stories. Some stories said humans were beasts with fire in their blood. Other stories said they were clever builders who could turn rocks into weapons. But the messenger had never been sure if those stories were truth or fear. At the table of the Thalan Dominion, the high strategist stood. His crest shook as he tried to sound strong. We do not need the banned species, he said. We have fleets. We have math. We have order. His words were sharp, but his eyes were weak. He knew the swarm cared for none of those things. It was not a problem of math. It was a problem of survival. Across the circle sat the old commander from Yell. Her face was scarred, her voice quiet. She spoke as if to herself. They banned the humans to protect us, or to protect themselves. I cannot remember which. Her eyes stayed fixed on the silver table in the center. She looked like someone who had been waiting 2 centuries for an answer that never came. The archivist raised her hand. We must decide. Shall we lift the ban or keep it? The word ban cut the air like a blade. Murmurs rose and fell. Some leaders hissed. Some muttered prayers. Some looked at the ground, afraid to meet anyone's eyes. The first speaker was a scholar from Elune. He carried a crystal and placed it on the table. The crystal lit with an image. A human face, old and tired. General May Carter, Human Expeditionary Fleet, the scholar said. She ended the Black Comet War in 9 days. His voice shook. With total force. The image shifted. Bright white light filled the hall. Whole fleets burned. Whole skies cracked. The council turned away. Even after 200 years. The light was too much. The next speaker was a diplomat. Her voice was soft, but her words were heavy. Humans are not like us. They are creative. They are restless. They break rules. They make strange plans. And when they fight, they do not fight to push an enemy back. They fight to make sure the enemy never returns. A thin alien stood from the shadows. His people had lost a moon in the last war. His voice was bitter. That is why we banned them. Yes, they win, but they do not stop where others stop. They go too far. They turn victory into silence. We feared that silence. The screens flashed again. Another world gone. Another fleet broken. The swarm was moving faster now, like a storm at full speed. The council chamber felt smaller with each update. 2 junior officers whispered in the back. One asked, "Have you ever seen a human?" The other shook her head. Only on a recording. It was hard to watch. They moved too fast, too wild. It was like watching a storm learn to walk. The archivist called for quiet. One more voice. Will be heard. The door opened. A tall figure entered. He was not human. He was the keeper of war relics, a guardian of old records. In his hands he carried a small book. He placed it on the silver table and opened it. The ban was not signed. In anger, he said. It was signed in fear. We feared what we would become if we kept asking humans to fight our wars. They did not bring peace. They brought endings. Endings we were not ready to face. The screens showed a rescue ship running from the swarm. Its engines sputtered. Inside were families and children. The swarm closed in. The ship would not make it. The old commander from Yell rose. Her voice was stronger now. 200 years ago, I saw a human fleet fight above my moon. Outnumbered 50-1, they did not run. They cut through the enemy like fire through grass. When it was over, the sky was empty. Empty but ours. She pointed to the screen. Tell me, who will save that ship? Not math, not order. Only something we banned. The hall grew silent again. The hum of old engines seemed to echo in the air, though none were near. The silver table no longer looked empty. It looked ready. The archivist touched the book and opened a hidden file. It showed the day the ban was signed. Human leaders stood before the council. Their faces were tired but steady. One spoke. If you call us again, it means your house is on fire. If we come, we will put it out. If you fear the water, do not call the river. The words spread through the hall like thunder. The rescue ship on the screen began to fall. Child inside pressed a broken toy ship to the window, wishing it could fly. The commander from Yell lowered her head. I vote to lift the ban. I vote to call the river. Others followed. Voices strong, voices weak, voices angry, voices tired. The tide of votes began to turn. The ban was not yet broken, but the door began to open, and far away, in the deep, dark, something stirred. Engines hummed, old but alive. The galaxy held its breath as if it knew the storm might soon return. The swarm did not stop. It never stopped. On the edge of the Orion Arm, 10 more systems fell within a week. Whole planets were stripped of life and metal. The machines consumed everything, leaving only dark dust behind. The Galactic Council received reports every hour, but none brought hope. Each report was just another scream turned into numbers. The fleets of the great empires were scattered like broken glass. The Thalan Dominion sent 300 warships. They lasted 2 battles before half were lost and the rest fled. The proud fleets of the Quran failed to defend their ring worlds. Even the Crystal Guardians of Elune, who once held off an entire war empire, broke under the endless gray tide. The swarm was not stronger in one ship or one weapon. It was stronger in patience. It would not rest, and that was its greatest weapon. In the council hall, fear grew like fire in dry grass. Leaders argued, shouted, begged. Some wanted to flee to the core systems and hide. Others wanted to try new weapons, though none had worked so far. A few whispered what many refused to say, call the humans. The vote from the last meeting had leaned toward lifting the ban, but no final decision had been made. The council feared what would happen if they asked humans to fight again. They remembered the old wars. They remembered silence after victory. They remembered endings so sharp that nothing grew for generations. To call the humans was to call both salvation and ruin. The old commander from Yell spoke again. Her voice carried no fear now, only certainty. If we wait, we die. The swarm does not bargain. The swarm does not stop. You can hide behind laws, but laws will burn with your worlds. We must break the ban. The high strategist of the Thalan Dominion rose, his voice shaking. We have not yet tested all weapons. There are mines, traps, shields. But before he could finish, another screen lit up. The machines had broken through the next defense line. The strategist sat down, his crest folding in shame. The messenger from the rim stood on the balcony watching the chaos below. His hands trembled, but inside his chest, a strange heat grew. The word human echoed in his mind like a drum. He did not know why, but he felt the weight of that word more than any other name he had ever learned. The council finally voted again. This time the decision was clear. The ban would be lifted. A signal would be sent to Earth. For 200 years, Earth had been silent in galactic matters. Their fleets had stayed within their own system. They had turned inward, building, waiting, watching. Some thought they had grown weak. Others thought they had disappeared. But now, the galaxy would find out the truth. The signal took days to travel, even with the fastest relays. Those days felt like years. While the message moved across space, the swarm advanced further. 1,000,000 machines cut through the colonies of the rim. Whole skies turned gray, whole oceans boiled. The survivors fled in small ships, chased like prey animals. At last, Earth answered. The reply was not long. It was a single line. "We come." The council chamber was silent when the words appeared. No threat, no promise, only certainty. For the first time in weeks, the leaders of the galaxy stopped talking. They simply stared at the message. Ships appeared on the long-range scans soon after. Not massive fleets like the Thalans, not glowing guardians like the Ilun. Just ships of iron and steel, scarred and old. Human ships. Their designs were simple, but their engines roared like storms. At the edge of council space, the human fleet gathered. Dozens at first, then hundreds. They did not wait for parades or welcomes. They moved straight toward the swarm. The galaxy watched. Every broadcast channel followed their path. Billions of eyes, billions of hearts, all waiting to see if the stories were true or if the ban had been a mistake. The first battle came in the dark void near a broken star. The swarm moved like a cloud, endless and thick. The humans moved like knives, sharp and fast. Their ships did not stay in formation. They broke apart, swirled, twisted, and struck in ways no alien fleet had ever tried. One moment they were scattered dust, the next they were a hammer smashing down. The swarm reacted, shifting to surround them. But the humans did not run. They dove straight into the heart of the tide. Their weapons burned holes through the machines. Their boarding crews leapt from one dying ship to another, carrying nothing but rifles and blades. Even when their ships cracked, they fought on the wreckage, turning every broken piece into a weapon. The council leaders watched the feat in shock. No one spoke. They had never seen war like this. It was not clean. It was not organized. It was chaos. But in that chaos, the swarm began to break. The messenger from the rim could not look away. His breath caught as he saw a single human ship ram through a swarm carrier, tearing it apart from the inside. Sparks lit the dark like falling stars. He whispered again, "Humans." But this time it was not fear. It was awe. The swarm retreated. From that battle, retreat, something it had never done before. The galaxy saw it happen, the impossible, and the humans had done it. When the survivors of that fight returned, their ships were torn and blackened. Many had holes. Many carried the dead. But their commanders sent only one message back to the council. "The ban is broken. The war is ours now." The leaders did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They only sat in silence, knowing what had been unleashed. The humans were back. The galaxy watched the humans fight, but victory alone did not answer the question that had haunted them for 200 years. Why were the humans banned in the first place? The swarm had been stopped in one battle, but the council remembered the old warnings. Endings. Silence. Fear. The humans had returned, but the truth of their past still waited like a shadow. Reports of the human fleet spread across every system. On desert worlds, in ocean cities, and ring stations, people whispered their name. Some whispered with hope, others with dread. The youngest asked their parents what a human looked like. Some parents told stories of warriors with fire in their eyes. Others told no stories at all, only shook their heads and said, "Pray we never meet them." The council itself demanded answers. They asked the Keeper of War Relics to open more sealed files. He hesitated, but at last he brought forth the black records of the final war 2 centuries ago. The war that had ended not with treaties, but with the ban. The records were old, scarred with static, but the images were still clear enough to burn into the mind. The hall darkened as the first file played. It showed a battlefield in orbit around a green world. Alien fleets clashed with an empire long forgotten, their weapons lighting the sky. And then the humans arrived. Their ships came not in perfect lines but in broken waves, each one moving like a hunter rather than a soldier. They cut through both friend and foe, ignoring the rules of the Council fleets. Where others used numbers, humans used madness. The file shifted. A smaller scene appeared. A human squad, trapped on a ruined station, faced an enemy twice their number. Instead of retreating, they set the station to explode, sacrificing themselves but erasing the enemy force. The council chamber gasped. For it was not the bravery that shocked them, but the willingness to burn everything just to make sure the war ended there. The old commander from Yell watched without surprise. She had seen this before. She had lived through it. But the younger leaders leaned back in fear. They understood now why humans had been called storms in old reports. They fought with no boundary, no line too far, no cost too high. The Keeper turned to the council. You ask why the ban was created? This is the answer. Humans win, yes, but they do not stop where others stop. They keep going until the enemy is gone, until nothing is left but silence. They do not fight to defend. They fight to finish. And we feared what that finishing would do to us. The hall was quiet but not calm. Some leaders nodded. Others shook their heads. The swarm was a nightmare, but was it worth calling another nightmare to destroy it? Far from the council, in the human fleet itself, the truth of the past lived in the hearts of the soldiers. Commander Elias Ward stood at the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the swarm-filled stars. His face was lined with scars, and his eyes were older than his years. He had been raised on the stories of the ban. He knew why his people had been cast out, but he also knew the swarm did not care for history. The machines only understood hunger, and hunger had to be broken. On the lower decks, soldiers prepared for the next strike. They were young, but their voices carried the same fire as their ancestors. They checked their weapons, strapped into armor, and shared quick smiles before battle. Some whispered jokes, some whispered prayers, but all carried the same unspoken truth. They were ready to fight until the last breath if it meant victory. The next battle came at a mining system on the rim. The swarm had already begun to consume the asteroid belts, spreading its gray clouds into the void. Alien fleets stood guard, but they had already lost half their strength. The humans jumped in without delay. Their ships dove straight into the swarm, cutting a path with guns and blades of light. One alien commander on the field sent a report to the council as he watched. The humans are here. They are different. Their ships fight like living things. Their soldiers throw themselves into fire without hesitation. They will win us this battle, but I fear they will win more than that. The humans did not just defend the mining stations. They pushed deeper, chasing the swarm across the belt, burning every trace of it, destroying even the machines that fled. When it was over, not a single enemy unit survived. The asteroids were safe but scarred, blackened from the violence. The aliens had expected a shield. What they received was a storm. After the fight, council representatives visited the human flagship. They found Commander Ward calm but cold. He greeted them with respect, but his eyes carried no warmth. You called us, he said. Now you must understand what that means. We are not here to push the enemy back. We are here to end them. That is what humans do. That is what you feared. That is why you banned us. The representatives had no answer. They had seen the swarm retreat, but they had also seen the fields of silence left behind. The machines were gone, but so too were the lines that once marked restraint. Across the galaxy, the question spread faster than the war itself. Could the humans be controlled? Could they be guided? Or had the Council called upon something far greater than they could contain? The young messenger from the Rim watched the new files every night. He saw the old wars, the madness, the sacrifice, the endings, and yet when he watched the swarm devour another world, he whispered the same word he had whispered before. Humans. His voice no longer shook with fear. It trembled with awe and with hope. The ban had been broken. The secret was no longer a secret. The galaxy now remembered why humans were banned, and soon it would learn what it meant to unchain them once more. The galaxy now stood at a crossroad. The humans had returned, the ban was broken, and the swarm had finally met an enemy it could not easily consume. But with every victory, unease spread across the Council. They had asked for salvation, and they had received it. But the cost was beginning to show. The humans fought with a fire that no other species understood, and where they passed, silence followed. In the council chamber, debates grew louder. Some leaders praised the humans as saviors. Others whispered that they were trading one terror for another. The archivist of Meru 6 tried to keep order, but her voice was lost beneath the storm of voices. The old commander from Yell spoke with clear certainty. We called them. We must now stand with them, whatever they bring. But her words did not calm the fear. Reports poured in. On one frontier world, humans had saved a colony by destroying every machine in orbit. But the aliens who lived there were shaken by what they had seen. Human Marines boarding enemy ships with nothing but knives, tearing apart machines with their bare hands when their weapons broke. To the colonists, it looked less like war and more like madness. Yet the madness had saved them. The high strategist of the Thalan Dominion sat in silence after hearing these reports. His pride had cracked. He had once trusted only in numbers and formations, but now he watched recordings of human ships breaking those same formations to win impossible battles. He whispered to himself, "They are chaos shaped into flesh." Far away in the human fleet, Commander Elias Ward met with his officers. His face was calm, but his tone was sharp. The swarm is not like the enemies of the past. It does not think. It does not feel. It only eats. To fight it, we must become the end it cannot endure. His officers nodded. None questioned him. They knew their path. But among the younger soldiers, questions began to rise. In quiet bunks, they asked each other, "What happens after the swarm is gone? Do we go home, or do we keep fighting?" None had answers, and that silence was heavier than any battle. Next great clash came at the edge of the Valar Nebula. The swarm had built a nest inside the clouds of gas, hidden and vast. Alien fleets had tried to burn it out, but their weapons scattered in the storms. The nebula swallowed their ships whole. The Council had lost 3 fleets there. Now it was the humans' turn. The human fleet did not hesitate. They dove into the nebula, blind to sensors but sharp in instinct. They used strange tactics, tricks no alien commander would dare. They shut down their lights, drifted in silence, then struck with sudden fury. They set traps using their own, wrecks luring the swarm into ambushes. Some ships sacrificed themselves, exploding deep inside the gray clouds to tear apart the hive. The Council watched in awe and dread. The humans lost many ships, but they never slowed. Every loss was fuel for greater fury. Every scar made them fight harder. When the smoke cleared, the nest was gone. The nebula was silent. The swarm was broken there, but so too was the nebula itself, scarred and darkened by fire. The archivist stood before the Council. "You see now what we chose," she said. "We chose not survival alone. We chose endings. The humans are not here to hold the line. They are here to erase it." On a quiet world near the core, children gathered in a hall to watch the news. They saw human soldiers stand tall among burning wreckage. Some of the children clapped, others cried. One child asked her teacher, "Are they heroes or monsters?" The teacher did not answer. Perhaps the truth was that they were both. Back in the human fleet, Commander Ward received a message from the Council. It was a question, not an order. When the swarm is gone, will you stop? He read it once, then closed it. He did not answer. Instead, he stood at the window of his ship staring into the dark. The galaxy thinks it called us, he said quietly to himself. But we were always waiting. We knew the day would come when they would need us again. And when that day came, the choice would no longer be theirs. His words spread among his officers like fire through dry wood. Some felt pride. Some felt fear. But all knew they would follow. The next vote in the council was split. Some wanted to limit the humans, to give them only certain fronts. Others said it was too late. The humans had already taken the war into their own hands. They did not wait for permission. They did not follow orders. They followed victory alone. The young messenger from the rim still watched from the balcony. He had seen the ban lifted, seen the humans return, seen their fire, and now he began to see something else. A truth larger than the council, larger than the swarm. He felt in his bones that the galaxy was changing and humans were not just part of the war, they were the choice itself. The swarm still spread. The war was not won, but for the first time in centuries the galaxy faced another question. Not just whether it would survive, but what it would become once survival was bought by human hands. Would it be the same galaxy? Or would it be something new, something shaped by fire and chaos, something that carried the mark of humanity forever? The choice was made, though few dared to say it out loud. The ban was gone. The humans were free. And once free, humans did not go back to chains. The swarm had never known fear. It had no heart, no mind, no soul. It only grew, only consumed. For years it had moved across the stars like a tide that could not be stopped. But then came the humans, and for the first time in its endless march, the swarm broke. The Council, worlds watched as human fleets spread across the warfront. They did not wait for orders or debate. They struck where the swarm was thickest, where the danger was greatest. Their fleets moved like storms, sudden and violent. Their soldiers became shadows and fire, slipping into places no other army could reach. With each victory, the galaxy gasped, for they had forgotten what humans were truly like. At first, there was relief. Planets saved, colonies defended, children rescued. The swarm was finally being pushed back. But then the relief turned into silence because everyone saw what came with that salvation. Humans did not stop at winning battles. They hunted, they pursued. They turned every broken machine into ash. Where other armies would retreat, humans pressed forward, even if it cost them everything. In one battle above a dying sun, the swarm gathered its greatest force. Millions of drones, carriers, and war engines filled the sky like a living wall. The Council fleets held back, their commanders afraid to waste what strength they had left. But the humans did not hold back. Their ships charged into the heart of the swarm, outnumbered 100 to 1. The battle raged for hours. Human ships cracked and burned, yet they kept fighting. Boarding crews leapt into enemy vessels with nothing but small arms, planting charges and tearing the machines apart from the inside. When a ship fell, survivors used its wreckage as cover to keep fighting. The humans turned every loss into a weapon. An alien observer sent a final report to the Council before his ship was destroyed. His last words echoed across the chamber. They fight like they are not afraid of death. They fight like death itself is afraid of them. When the battle ended, the swarm fleet was gone. Not defeated, not scattered, gone. The humans had not stopped until every machine was destroyed. The sun itself grew dim from the wreckage that fell into it. Silence filled the system. The galaxy could not look away. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds watched the recordings. They had prayed for victory, but what they saw was something else entirely. The humans did not simply win. They erased. They burned the war out of existence, leaving only scars. In the council chamber, the archivist of Meru 6 read the new reports with trembling hands. "The swarm is breaking," she said. "World by world, system by system, the humans are finishing it." Her voice cracked on that last word. She remembered the ban, the warnings, the fear of endings. Now those endings had returned. The high strategist of the Thalan Dominion sat in silence. He had once spoken of order, of numbers, of formations. Now he said nothing because none of those things mattered anymore. The humans had shown that chaos could be stronger than order, that fury could be sharper than reason. He stared at the silver table where the human nameplate still rested, and he whispered, "This is why we feared them." The old commander from Yell closed her eyes as she listened to the news. She had voted to lift the ban, and now she saw the truth of that choice. Her voice was low but steady. "We did not invite warriors, we invited endings, and endings do not ask for permission." Meanwhile, on the rim, the young messenger who had once whispered the word human watched every new broadcast. His people's worlds had been burning only weeks ago, but now the skies were clear. He saw human soldiers walking through ruined colonies, helping survivors, giving water to children, and he saw those same soldiers board their ships again without rest, flying off to the next war front. To him, they were both saviors and shadows. He did not know whether to cheer or pray. The swarm tried once more to gather its strength in the deep void between galaxies. It built a fortress of machines, larger than anything seen before. The council called it hopeless, said no army could reach that far, no fleet could endure that kind of storm. But the humans went anyway. They crossed the void with engines burning, like comets. They carried no banners, no music, no speeches, only weapons, only resolve. The final battle was long, brutal, and endless. But at its end, the fortress cracked apart. The swarm fell silent forever. The humans did not cheer. They did not hold victory parades. They only sent a single message back to the council. The war is over. That was the moment the galaxy understood. They understood why the ban had been made 2 centuries ago. Not because humans were weak, not because they were cruel, but because they were something no other species could be. An ending. Once unleashed, they did not stop until the war was finished, no matter the cost, no matter the ruin. Planets were safe again. Stars shone quietly again. Children slept without fear again. But everywhere, across every world, the same thought lived in every heart. Humans had returned. And once returned, they would never again be forgotten. The council gathered one last time. The archivist placed the old book of relics on the silver table. She spoke to the chamber. "Now you know. The ban was not made because humans failed us. It was made because they did too much. They gave us victory when we were not ready for what victory cost, and now we must live with that truth." Silence filled the hall. No one argued. No one spoke. Because deep inside, every leader, every soldier, every citizen of the galaxy now understood. The humans were not monsters. They were not angels. They were storms, and storms did not ask for permission before they ended the night.